You're afraid to dream big. Having ambition and dreaming something big for yourself scares you. You smother your own hopes and aspirations because you think you'll never be able to achieve them. So what's the point? You look down on yourself and all that you can do and refuse to leave your comfort zone. The possibility of failure and rejection terrifies you. You easily feel discouraged and worthless the moment you encounter a setback. You deny yourself opportunities to grow and have new experiences because you don't believe in yourself. Your insecurities make it hard for you to see your capabilities, and you can't allow yourself to succeed. We all have a lot of self-destructive behaviors that are toxic for our mental health and emotional well-being. So many of us struggle with feelings of insecurity, emptiness, and worthlessness that it can sometimes lead us to hating ourselves.
What is up, boys? Hope you guys are having a great day. Back with another trade breakdown. Today's trade breakdown is how we lost just shy of over $6,200 today. Trading the NASDAQ, we're going to go into buys before, what ended up happening throughout the trading day, and our 3 trade executions we ended up taking today that all ended up being losses. Starting off, let's showcase P&L as per usual. All the top sub accounts copied. So, or all the top sub accounts still copied, but the P&L isn't there. Okay, now starting off on the overall day, I first want to premise that we did have unemployment claims, so I was actually expecting today to have a bit of volume. I didn't think it would be crazy displacement, but I still had anticipation that, hey, we would still have some volume, even though it is New Year's Eve. Starting off on the higher time frame analysis, here was my daily outlook because all 3 of today's losses was due to the same reason. They were all good executions. They were all pretty solid executions, I'm actually not going to lie. However, they were all against order flow, and that is why each trade execution failed. Each trade execution, regardless of how good of confluence there was, even though there was great confluence, failed solely because it was all against order flow. We're going to get into that in a second. So this was based off of the 4-hour and the 1-hour. I was looking to see this market maker model, continue to be validated. We had the sell side of the curve. I was looking for us to begin to create that buy side of the curve or trade into that buy side of the curve after we had that smart money reversal right here, continuing that weekly open low high close, or at least weekly open low high-ish then close without a full high. Seeing that low of week, or that weekly wick created today. Holy cow, that took forever to say. We were forming SMT. Well, it was monthly cycle sequential SMT between both ES and NQ, so I wanted to see that hold. Going into the trading day, however, what ended up happening? Well, we ended up marking out our standard deviation because today I wanted to see, hey, potentially, how far could we expand? Because going into market open, we had already expanded, where is it? 100 points pre-market. So I was like, okay, what can we anticipate here if we're still looking to see that overall higher time frame market model, market maker buy model completed? I was like, well, I would like to see these, internal highs taken, really just buy side liquidity continuing to the upside. Cool. How would we look to take that? Well, I'd want to see higher time frame retracement, sequential SMT with YM most likely, cracking correlation with YM, and then a change of state delivery continuing back to the upside. So that is what I was looking for. Now that you guys understand what I was looking for, we can get into all the trade executions and what ended up happening on the lower time frames. Scaling down to the 1 minute. Market open, we continue to displace lower to the downside. And now, this is totally off, well, not really totally off topic, but I'm going on a little tangent here. I want to comment on later, after everything is said and done, what I think my biggest current issue is right now. That's not a major issue, but is definitely causing me to take a bit more losses. But we'll get into that later. Anyways, going to market open, we had huge displacement to the downside, which is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see a retracement for higher time frame hourly PD arrays we had, both right here and here, even the change in state of delivery here, as well as a fib retracement for OTE. So I was like, okay, I'm fine with the deep retracement. Cool. I ended up retracing for OTE, and that's when we got our first trade execution. Now, if I know the live recording is always sped up, but if you guys were just paying a tiny bit of attention, each one of today's trade executions were actually on market orders. As you guys know, I typically use limit orders. I was utilizing market orders today because I was really confident in in longs today. I'm not gonna lie. We had that higher time frame market maker model, had the sequential SMT, trace for OTE, and higher time frame 1 hour bullish for rally gap. Like today was an A plus execution day. What really caught me was trading against order flow. So today's first execution was right here. Now I'm not the best with market orders, I will say that. So it's kind of a mid entry, but this was the first execution. Ended up consolidating for a bit before we eventually got stopped out. This we ended up scaling in a contract in order to balance out the risk, so our SL was right here. This was the first loss due to the upside from that 1 minute change state delivery. However, made that retracement for that 5 minute bearish PD array, opposing PD array, and I was like, okay, cool. Ended up validating it, stop this out. Now, once we got stopped out, we ended up forming this sequential SMT on the microcycle. Right here, between Q2 and Q3, I'm pretty sure, if it'll load. Where was it? Sorry, Q3 and Q4. That I was like, okay, cool. Even though NQ just barely took out that low and we did form relative equal lows, now looking at it, I still was adamant on long because I was like, okay, cool. I want to see longs back to the upside. So I went on the 30-second time frame, executed on an inverse for value gap. 30-second inverse, I was like, still like the confluence. We're still within OTE, hard time frame PD rate, all this other stuff. Cool. Executed. Our trade entry was about here. SL down here. Still targeting current high a day. And ended up getting stopped out on that one too. Now, our last execution still was looking to go long. This was only moments after. Now, up to this point, I was like, okay, cool. Got stopped out on both trade positions. I was looking at this potential sell model we ended up having here, and this, sorry, it's not sell model, sell off. We ended up having market open right here. But I was still like, okay, cool. This could potentially just be a deep retracement before continuing to look higher. We're forming a lower time frame power of 3 right here. Accumulation, manipulation. I want to see that distribution at least to this internal high. So now I adjusted my targets. I was just to know what price action was doing. I was like, okay, cool. But I wasn't adjusting to order flow. I was sticking with my bullish bias. So now adjusting this trade position. What ended up happening here? Same exact thing. However, this was my last, quote, Hail Mary. I'm joking, it wasn't Hail Mary, but this was my last trade of the day. I was like, okay, cool. It's either, going to be a win or a loss, and then we're going to get off the chart. I have a max loss of 3 trades per day, then I get off, regardless of win or loss. So I was like, okay, cool. Had this 1 minute inverse for value gap right here. What did I end up doing again? Today was not a change state delivery day because the change state deliveries would have been so outrageous. With our SL, I chose to execute on the 30-second time frame with the inverse for value gap. So I was like, okay, had that 30-second inverse, executed market order once again. Price actually displaced the upside for a bit before eventually validating this 1 minute opposing change in state delivery had continuing to the downside, eventually stopping us out going into Q4. Now, are we slightly continuing back to the upside? Yes. However, what I quickly want to comment on or preface before we get into what I am doing wrong that's causing more losses than need be is how we actually could have caught a short to the downside. This was also another very, very simple short day, but the issue was I wasn't looking for shorts. I was stuck looking for longs, and that was my fault. I acknowledge that going into the trading day. So we had this higher time frame 5 minute bearish PD array, opposing bearish PD array. Trading below midnight, cool. Once we retrace back into midnight, midnight would have provided a perfect entry aligning with the CE of this 1 minute fair value gap. Could have gotten a great entry right here. Bang, I sell above the high. Targeting low a day. Simple as that. Would have been a solid trade. If we didn't execute upon that, this is what I realized later throughout the trading day. I realized it before my last trade. However, I was still looking to see it get invalidated. We had this change of state delivery to the downside. Could have had our SL above this high. We did have SMT here between ES and NQ, as you can see right there. Targeting, once again, that low of day. Would have been the same RR. Eventually would have hit that too. Cool. That's the short we could have ended up taking. Now, who cares about the short we could have ended up taking? We have to focus on how we actually can improve from this and not just keep trading against having days where we just get molested and traded against order flow. Sorry, this is hurting my eyes. Okay, there you go. Now, I found myself having days where I am just strictly trading against order flow because I want to see something in specific happen. However, my reactive tendencies are telling me to react to what price action is doing. I've had a multitude of days like this throughout the past 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, where price is clearly showcasing a clear shift in order flow, but I'm stuck on the higher time frame analysis, not reacting to medium time frame, saying no, this is what I want to see happen, and it causes me to take more losses than need be, even though the executions are good. Now, granted, could the timing of this have been a little bit better? Yes and no. If I wanted to look for that final long to the down or to the upside, I could have waited for a low day to be taken out with a sequential SMT, right? But I was like, no, we had more than enough good confluence, and I still stand by that. We had more than enough good confluence in order to execute long, so I was willing to take that risk. Pertaining to trading against order flow, I need to allow myself to be more reactive to the medium time frame, at least before we see that full shift in order flow confirmed by either, a prominent draw liquidity taken out, clear sequential SMT, or anything, or a clear higher time frame PD rate retracement. Apart from that, I am going to go review my journal, reflect on how I can improve from this. Losses are a part of the game. Had too many break-evens and losses within the past week, within the past 5 trading days. So moving forward, I really want to improve from there, reflecting on how to take full advantage of our good trades, because we're taking good trades. We're not taking bad trades. And I, still stand by that, even though, losing days happen. But still taking good trades. Aim to continue to take trades like this. However, with order flow. Anywho, that's all I have for today's trade recap. I love you guys. Thank you for watching, and I am exhausted. I will see you in the next one. Peace and have a nice day.